Hi, welcome to Part B, Module 4, Know Yourself. So how was that last exercise when you were asked to write down some of your thoughts on the skills that you would like to develop to increase your employability? Did you have something to pen down or did you draw a blank? Either way, it's okay. That is why, as you process all of the information and do the exercises, you become clearer and better at identifying those things. I have a question on the screen. What is the link between your previous as well as your future job? People generally do 4 types of transitions. The first is they stay within the same role and the same industry, which means they look for another company which is very similar to their current company, and they look for a role which is almost identical to the one they are already doing. The transfer of skills in this instance would generally be pretty high. The second type of transition is people stick to the same role, but they decide to have a change of scenery, maybe try a different industry. Let me illustrate. For example, the person could be trained in accounts. That is the role that they play. Perhaps for the last 5 years, they may have been in an industry such as food and beverage. And they decide maybe they want to try something different. And they move into FMCG, which means fast moving consumer goods, which is, generally companies like Dairy Farm, Cold Storage, NTUC, and that such. In this instance, they are staying within the same role, but they're transitioning into a different industry. This would be the second type, which is going to have a lot of skills which are still transferable. Now, the third one is when the person decides that they will stay within the same industry that they are in, but decide to try a different role. Let's go back to the example of the F&B. Perhaps the person was doing accounts in the food and beverage industry for many years, but they have a deep dream that one day they will actually learn how to be a chef. So they go on and do classes at various organizations to upskill themselves into becoming a chef. And they decide to transit to becoming a chef within the F&B industry. This is an example of a person changing their role but not the industry. The transfer of skills here may be a little less, and the picking up of new skills will be a lot more. Now, for those of you who are really gung-ho, maybe you want to change your role and change the industry you're in at the exact same time. This would be considered a pretty challenging transition for many people, because there's so many things that you have to pick up in a short period of time. There are people who have done it and people who are still doing it. It really goes back to your mindset, your determination, as well as the consistency and the discipline to learn those new things. But let us take maybe some of the simpler examples. A lot of people stay within the same role because they would have been highly trained to do that job, but perhaps look at different industries, or maybe they're looking at a role which could be an expansion or a combination with something else which is new that they would have to pick up. So let us go deeper into what are some of your transferable skills, shall we? I'm going to give you 2 QR codes in just a short while, and when you see them, do pause the video so that you can try them out. Here are your QR codes. If you notice, there are 2 different surveys. The first one is a quick version with only 15 questions, which I'm sure many of you will finish in a minute or 2. The second one is going to take more time and concentration. It's 155 questions. but the results will be a lot more extensive and you'll get a lot more clarity. So if you think you don't have the patience to do the 155, why not you try the 15? But I strongly encourage everyone to give the 155 question survey a shot, because many of the answers that comes up from there will be very useful in filling up the documents subsequently and also preparing you in your job search. You may pause the video now. I hope you had a good time finishing those surveys and getting some answers and some insights into what are some of your skills. So you need to have a really good understanding of the relevant skills that you actually have. When I sit on interview panels, I often like to ask the candidate, what would you say are 3 of your most valuable skills that you bring to an organization? And clearly you can see some candidates are prepared. They have done self-assessments and they actually know what are the relevant skills they bring to the table. And for others, you can see them thinking on the spot, where they're trying to figure out what are the skills they have and how does it all fit together. So give yourself the advantage of doing this preparation in a systematic way so that you really understand how you can add value. As I've shared several times before, it is our responsibility to position ourselves to the prospective employer. It is not the employer's job to find out or to fish information out from us. It takes too much time, and many of them won't go to that extent. So we have to put our best foot forward and be able to present information in a concise and impactful manner. How does that sound to you? Good, isn't it? So on the screen you can see transferable skills. Some of you here are doing career transitions where the gap is a lot wider, meaning it could be a different industry or it could be a different role. And I know some concerns that you may have, which is, do I have the relevant experience? Trust me, I've heard this question many times. So, what is experience? Experience is that knowing, is that knowledge that you have gained by doing something, isn't it? But the question is, are all experiences relevant? Because times are changing, technology is changing, so surely some of those experiences may no longer be directly linked. But what you do have is problem-solving experience. Yes, it could be in a different role, it could have been in a different industry, but these are skills that are transferable. So let's go a little deeper. I'm going to show you on this slide first, and then we're going to dive into the manual that you have been given digital copy so that you can understand them step by step. Some areas or categories of transferable skills are teamwork, leadership, personal motivation, organization and time management, written communication, verbal communication, as well as listening. Did you get that? So these are the 6 very big broad categories of transferable skills. And trust me when I say this to you, when you are able to articulate these things clearly in an interview, you will get the favor of the employer. Many people don't understand or realize how valuable these skills really are. So just to recap, skills are always connected to solving problems. So what if I have the skill of being able to build teams? What is the problem I'm solving? I'm getting people to collaborate, reduce friction, perhaps increase the speed of getting things done. And that applies to pretty much every industry. I have not heard in my last 20 years of doing consulting and facilitation any organization that says we don't need teamwork. So can you see how when you dig deeper, you begin to realize that you have developed certain skills which you don't even know is of high value. So now let's jump on to the manual to see what's over there. So in the manual, as you scroll down in module 4, you will see under transferable skills the exact same 6 things which I had given you. And there's a lot more writing there, and I would like you to take the time to read it and understand it, because I'll be quizzing you along the way, where I'll ask you what are 6 of the most transferable skills. This is very important. So put a double asterisk in your mind and get this into your system. Now, the next part would be talking a little bit about what are your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities, as well as the threats. And I'm going to follow along on the digital manual so that it'll be easy for everybody. So can you see there's a series of questions which have been given here? Let me just read a few. And I would ask of you to take the time this afternoon to patiently and thoroughly answer all of these questions. The first one, what do I do well? What is it that you do well in a employment context? What do you do well? Do you organize well? Do you communicate well? Do you persuade people well? Do you get things done well? Do you manage inventory well? Based off the surveys that you had done earlier, I am pretty sure a few ideas will pop up. Let's jump on down to another random question. What qualities do others see in me? What positive feedback have I received? Do you recall a moment ago I was talking about this, where it is a common question that's asked, how do people see you? They're asking you a little bit about your brand. What would be the 1 or 2 words that people would use to describe you? Not 5 or 10 or 15. I've had candidates who normally rattle off a very long list. The key is to make it short and concise and consistent through the entire interview. So let's jump on now to another one. What do I need to improve? Doesn't that sound like a weakness question? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. One thing I want you to bear in mind is strengths and weaknesses are internal. They are within us. Opportunities and threats are about the external environment. Opportunities that are within the industry, opportunities that are within the economy. The threat could be to the role or the industry, as I've mentioned earlier in the videos. So take the time to understand what exactly you are good at, that you need to improve on, the opportunities as well as the threats. And below, we have given you 4 nice large boxes. And I'll be reviewing it with you to kind of see how well you know yourself. So that pretty much concludes this module on Know Yourself. Thank you.